special edition of the Connectedness podcast. It's kind of an impromptu one. Bear with me, as this won't be as scripted or not much of an outline prepared, but I just felt like I wanted to share this. I'll start with a little bit of a background. Monday morning. On Friday evening, I had volunteered to co-host a meetup with a meetup colleague of mine. He's someone who's been a supporter of Filled Cups, and he asked for a co-host for a meetup dinner and the topic of the dinner was, what do men or women want? And in the context of dating. So it was definitely catered to singles. It was a dinner at a Middle Eastern place here in Charlotte. I was like, hey, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? I'll have some good Middle Eastern food, I'll meet some new people, and I'm genuinely interested in this topic because, as you guys know, I started Filled Cups in the summer of 2024. So now it's been about a year and a half. And my intention and my vision originally, and it continues to be really, is to help figure out how to make people less lonely, or how to help people who are feeling isolated or lonely, how to help them find meaningful relationships, whether those be friendships or romantic relationships. And I do that earnestly. I'm not doing this to make a lot of money. To be honest, Filled Cups doesn't make much money. So I went to this event with good intentions, open mind, and genuine interest. And I brought my little notebook with me. So when we were waiting for the food and the discussion came to the point where we would start asking these questions, I told everybody in the group there, hey, I'm here genuinely interested. This is a topic I'm passionate about. And I'm here with my notebook and I'm going to take some notes as you guys are talking. So we started, it wasn't a very structured discussion. It was more like, kind of casual. So some of the people in the room were more outspoken and passionate about the topic. And some of the people in the room I probably didn't talk at all. So I was a little bit disheartened by that. I think if I were to do it again, I would figure out a way to get everybody to talk. And but let's go ahead. I'm gonna go run through some of my notes here for you. One of the first people to speak was a young woman, and she had a lot to say. Uh, I think she was in her mid to late 30s, and she was single, and was feeling kind of burnt out with the dating scene. So she said that the dating world out there, this is all her perspective, by the way, that there's delusion, that people are expecting more from others than what they can give themselves, and that it's very body centric, that everyone is just looking at people's bodies or appearance and making decisions based on that, and there's a struggle to go beyond the surface level. She also said social media makes it worse, that there's an illusion of perfection, and people, everyone's being bombarded with images of perfect looking people on social media, but in real life, people don't look like that. Everyone is trying to reach out of their league, according to this young woman. I see that. I don't know if that's 100% of indicative of the population, but I do see some of that. And from both genders, not just men going for hot women, but women going for hot men as well. Dating apps give you an illusion of infinite options. So if you are talking to, she said in her case, and she was actually very self-aware and admitted that some of these things happened with her. She said that there were situations where she was talking to somebody, that person seemed interesting, and but she ended up not following up with that person or not giving that person the attention, because she had somebody like two or three other people talking to her at the same time, and she kind of like lost focus. So that's something that she said happened with her. And then there was then other people in the table started talking more. And just to level set, in the group there were some people in their 20s, some people in their 30s and 40s, and there were people in their 50s, 60s, maybe even 70, I'm not sure, but around that older group. So somebody in the older group said, back in the day, you'd go to a club, get to know people slowly. Person was talking about how you'd go to a club, you would meet somebody, you'd give that person the time to get to know them. Whereas nowadays, everyone's just kind of disposing of everybody on the apps. So that same young woman who was talking earlier, she said that we are in a throwaway society. People dispose of each other if there's conflict. Basically, what she's experiencing, and I also do see some of this too, is when there is a early relationship conflict, it's just easier for people to say, I'm out, than trying to actually work through that conflict. She made a comparison. She said, how we shop on Amazon is how people shop for dates online. So you just keep scrolling and scrolling and finding more options, more options, more options. And she also said that there are this is a new one to me, I didn't know this. There are games people play on social media, like stalking other people on social media. She gave an example of one of her friends that was, I guess, stalking somebody she was dating on social media to see when they were online, when they were uh, responding to her messages, whether they liked her story or things like that. She said people don't feel the pressure to settle down. Women don't want to have kids, or for the women who don't want to have kids. So that's an interesting one. And then I kind of jumped in and said, hey, the whole question of kids is really complex. I've seen folks who are finally ready to settle down, but they're already in their 50s. They're looking for people who want to have kids with them. That can be kind of complex to navigate. This young woman said, a lot of people decided they don't want to have kids anymore, so they don't have the pressure to settle down that people would have had if they were trying to abide by the biological clock in the case of women. Apps are not good for people's mental health. And that was everyone on the table agreed. The older people, the younger people, it's the women and the men. There was even, I think she was talking about women's mental health, but if the men jumped in and they were like, no, 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 it's not good for our mental health either. And then she was talking about ghosting and how ghosting has been normalized and everyone just ghosts each other. And one of the men at the table said, you know what, I don't call it ghosting. And the way he was explaining it is he was dating somebody and she ghosted him, and he just decided in his mind to assume that she wasn't ghosting him. She was just busy and something happened in her life. So he chose not to take it personally, and he chose not to give her that power of ghosting, of having been the one that decided to ghost. He just assumed, oh well, she's busy, whatever. And so I thought that was an interesting point. Like, how can you depower the ghosting action? And I don't know if that's the way to say it, but I thought that was a good way to look at it. So then I asked everybody, hey, thanks for all your feedback, because obviously there was a lot of frustration in the room. It seems like singles, both on the male side and the female side, are all frustrated. And it seems, at least, and I know I'm a broken record, I've already said this many times, but the apps are making everything worse. And so is social media. So, like, how can we get to, if you are single and you are out there trying to find a partner, how can you do it more organically and more in a more healthy way that doesn't over that you're not over relying on these apps, because it seems like they're making everything worse from what I'm hearing. I asked everybody, but what do you guys want, really? What do you guys want in a partner? So a man who was there said he wants somebody with shared interests. Then another older woman who was there, she said she wanted somebody with consistency. That she in her experience lately, she'll go out with somebody, and they're like love bombing her, but then the next time they get together they're treating her badly, or they give her a lot of attention and then they don't give her any attention, or they take her out and do things, but then they flake out on the next date. She wants somebody who's gonna, if they say they're gonna go on a date, they're gonna show up to the date and be there, and treat her with respect consistently the whole time, and not have these ups and downs. And then this other man who was there, he's a man who's, I think he's about 40 years old. He said he wants simple, good company, and he wants that person to respect him. And that's it. Then the young woman asked the older people, does it get easier with age, the rejection? And one of the things that the older people said is, look, it doesn't get easier with age, according to these people. People don't get kinder or wiser as they're older. I was very surprised. I was That wasn't something I thought was gonna be said here. It seems like the other people at the table were kind of agreeing with him. This man, he was a very outspoken man. He's older. He said, people don't get kinder and wiser as they get older. The longer you live, the more baggage you carry with you. And that's why you hear all these horrible stories of how people were treated in past relationships, and they carry that with them. And at some point, the topic kind of shifted, because somebody on the apps was being reached out to people in open relationships that were saying, hey, I'm ethically non-monogamous, or I'm in an open relationship, and they were even trying to kind of recruit her to be maybe in a three-way with the husband and the wife. Yeah, I guess that's something that might happen with people on the apps. So another reason to not use the apps as your only method. I get it, everyone's on the apps, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't rely on it as your only method, because it's a terrible method. And the best place to find people apparently is the supermarket, according to some people there. But this person who was bringing it up said that that's what he had heard, but he hadn't had any luck at a supermarket. So they were joking around that some supermarkets now have bars, and the bars are actually happening. And so one of the guys there, or the co-host, he was like, maybe we should host a singles event at a bar in the supermarket and see what happens. So I was like, oh, that's an idea. Dating tips. One person said, we just need to train ourselves to start conversations with strangers, whether we're attracted to them or not. Just do it for the sake of exercising that muscle of starting conversations with strangers, because you never know who you're going to be talking to. Say you are at the grocery store and you start a conversation with a stranger, and you somehow find out that they're super interesting and cool, and they have a really good energy that you vibe with. You wouldn't have known that if you hadn't started that conversation. Then somebody said, do you try to find similar traits as your former partner, for people who had been in relationships before? So all the people at the table who were divorced said, no, I'm divorced for a reason. I don't want to find somebody similar to my former partner. But there was one man there who was a widower, and he was like, yes, I do try to find, because his wife, it was somebody he loved deeply, and he would like to find somebody with similar traits as her. the topic of being older and knowing who you are, and how people adapt for relationships. So this older man said, when he was younger, he would compromise who he was in order to earn the love of the person that he was with. But now that he's older, he knows who he is, and it is what it is. So he said, in a way, that knowing of who you are and that strength of your identity can, in his case, might actually be repelling some women, that because he's got strong personality, he's outspoken and stuff like that. So there's something to be said for that. But I love the idea that you know who you are, uh, but it can be a little nuanced too, right? Because when you're younger, you're kind of shaping yourself, and if you find a partner when you're younger, you're shaping yourself with that partner. That can be a good thing or a bad thing, right? Depends on how you're shaping yourself, and whether the changes you're making are beneficial to you or not, or just or we could get into a whole other topic of like domination and abuse, and we don't want to. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about healthy adults getting into a healthy relationship, and partners shaping themselves hopefully positively for the other partner. Fear of rejection gets easier as you get older, is what everyone there seemed to agree upon. Meaning, and this man, he said, I have a philosophy. It's just one word, because he's worked in sales for over 40 years, and he said, I have one word, and it's next. If he gets rejected, he just says next, let's move on. It's not about him. It's not like a judgment of his worth or anything like that. And the one of the young men, the one who's 40, who said he wanted a simple relationship and somebody who respected him, he said, be proud of yourself, because at least you tried. So if you ask somebody out and if they say no, he said, I'm still happy, because at least I did my part, and what they do is on them. Whether they decide to say yes or no, if they are rude or whatever, that's on them. That's not on me. At least I did my part. So I thought that was a constructive advice. And then dating fatigue. Oh yeah, the young woman asked, like, how do you guys deal with dating fatigue? Because the highs and lows, there's so much hope and so much disappointment. Like she has a hard time dealing with that. That was a really good point she brought. I feel my heart goes out to her and to other people who feel that way, because I agree. Like, when dating is one of the most personal things you're doing, right? You're trying to find a partner, and so it's very personal, and it touches your heart, deep inside. So like, if you find somebody you really like, you're on a emotional high, but then if it goes badly, you're in an emotional low. So I guess the question is, how can we get to a place where we don't let those highs and lows impact us emotionally as much? I'll be honest, I do not have the answer to this. My guess that it might have to do with more like building self-love, but it's easier said than done, right? It's easier said than done. So, and then somebody said, don't take it so serious. It's fun. Take it with a light heart. At the worst, and this was a woman at the end of the table who was funny, and she had some funny stories about dates that she's been on. And she said, don't take it so serious. It's fun. Take it with a light heart. Like, the worst that can happen is you can have a funny story to tell about a problem date. And so, and we were all laughing because she had told a story about some guy she went on a date with, who ended up with a very aggressive kiss, and like we were all laughing at how she was describing the kiss. So that was the end of my notes. There was a lot in here, you guys. I think it was a great discussion. I'm glad I went. I'm glad I volunteered to co-host. And if they decide to do this again, I would do it again. I guess my closing thoughts are: one, everyone's out there looking for a partner, and both men and women are having trouble. And both sides are, they have opinions about the other side, and and that can, in a way, that can kind of cloud your mindset and your attitude about dating. Like whenever I meet singles that are coming at me with all that negativity about the other side and about the apps, my feeling is, oh shoot, oh shoot, I don't know how to help this person, and I don't know if this person is gonna have much luck dating, and that's just my instinctual reaction. I'm not right or wrong. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but it's just the mindset of just coming at it with all that resentment is, I'm sure it's not helping. So what I would recommend and is take the attitude of the last lady on the table that I just mentioned. You know, don't take it so seriously. Have fun. Get some good stories out of this thing. And I actually think that lady's probably gonna find somebody soon, because I think she's looking at it with a really good attitude. And so we talked about mindset. We talked about how both sides are having issues. We talked about all of these other things that people were bringing up at the table. I think were valid points. But I think one big conclusion that everybody seemed to agree on is that the apps are not helping. They're not helping you guys. So if you're serious about meeting somebody, if you're really serious, what are you gonna do to find that person? And I'm not putting this challenge out there to discourage you or to tell you that you're gonna be single forever. That's not what I'm trying to do. I actually want to help you. How are you gonna find somebody? Are you gonna continue to rely on a tool that is not working? And yeah, okay, so Fernanda, yeah, I know 3 people who met on the apps and they're really happy. So let's talk about this a little bit. For every 3 people that met on the apps, I'm guessing there's 100 or 200 people that are not meeting anybody on the apps. So that's 1. 2, for the people who met on the apps, do you think it was all luck? And I don't know. I don't know the answer. Is it all luck? Or are they doing something different? What are they doing? What did they do that helped them find that person on the apps? I would be curious to learn. You know what? That's a challenge for me. I'll see if I can find some people to talk to who met on the apps to see what did they do right, and then I'll bring it back to the series. Thank you. Thanks for your attention, and I hope your Sunday is going well.